The Heroes and Villains podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Shady Rays. Go to shadyrays.com and use promo code SGPN for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. And we're also brought to you by the Golf Gambling Podcast Tailor-Made Stealth 2 Driver Giveaway. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/driver to enter today before the big drawing on April 8th. And we're also brought to you by Baseball Money is Fake, our fantasy baseball podcast. Join Blake and Ryan 3 times a week and get all the player breakdowns and statistical data you need to dominate your competition. And welcome in to the Heroes and Villains podcast presented by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I am your host, Justin Bruni. Joining me, as always, is Mr. Andrew TD King Rob. How we doing, sir?
Great, man. Happy to be here. Happy to talk a little fantasy, best ball, ADPs, get some fantasy heroes, ones that we like. So I think it's going to be a good episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Your bosses must love you at work at the day job. Like, hey, happy to be here, buddy. Just another day, another dollar. Getting in.
I can't say I'm as excited to go to that job as I am to this job, but got to put on a happy face.
Yeah, I feel like you bring the pep. I don't know. I feel like I could work across from a cubicle across from you. That is, anyways.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. What's up, guys? We got J Mark up in the chat. What's up, buddy? What's up? Just hanging out. Thursday night, we're going to be talking some ADP heroes in fantasy football on Underdog. If you're not on Underdog, be sure to go check them out. You can use promo code SGPN to sign up and get a 100% deposit match up to $100. We're going to dive right into the conversation, though, here. Andrew, who is your top ADP hero? Who is an absolute steal at their ADP right now on Underdog? Anyone particular that you're targeting at a high rate?
Well, I have a bunch. I don't think one really sticks out. I like all these guys, but let's just start with somebody that everyone knows. It's DK Metcalf for me. He's currently wide receiver 15 on Underdog, wide receiver 18 listed on Fantasy Pros, and then I did pull up, Establish the Run. Shout out to Establish the Run. They're always, as Adam Levitan says, always grinding their cocks off. So I like to look at their stuff because they are obviously deep diving in here as well. And they currently have him positional, a wide receiver 12. Their total rank is 27. I think Metcalf, I read a stat and I was looking a lot into players that get heavily involved in the red zone. DK Metcalf was one of the leaders in the NFL in red zone targets. I think where he's currently going is friendly ADP. He's pretty easy to stack with Geno Smith. If you want to get the full team stack of him and Lockett, it's very doable. So he's definitely a fantasy hero for me because of those reasons. But also, DK Metcalf is just a monster of a human, right? Like this dude's hard to cover because he's massive. He coming into the league, people always said that he didn't have a good route tree, but ever since he came into the league, I can't really tell you that, that's the case. He's very good at what he does. He's extremely fast. We all saw him run down Buda Baker a couple years back, right? So this dude's hella fast, very good, good hands. And, he's clearly the guy on the team and he's going to get his targets. And I do really love the red zone targets though for DK Metcalf. That's one of the main reasons why I like him where he's going.
Oh, the touchdown upside is absolutely there. Big body target in the red zone. And the team looks like they're going to, continue to pass, more and often. Like Kenneth Gainwell, like Tyler Lockett, that build is absolutely amazing and also not very difficult to do. You can attack Metcalf and Kenneth Walker early, still back that up with Lockett and Geno Smith with later ADP. He is definitely a receiver that I'm comfortable with starting my team out as my first wide receiver drafted. So if I do go hero RB, and then, maybe wait a while to take another running back, he is definitely someone that I'm comfortable with, starting off my my wide receiver room. In the super flex format, do you have anything that would deter you away from him? I feel like you're only going to get him at better value in that spot, in that opportunity.
Right. I mean, obviously, if nobody's went into Underdog and done their super flex, best ball draft shit, I mean, obviously, all the quarterbacks get pushed up. So,
Mhm.
you kind of got to take into consideration that these guys, when you're drafting them, they're about 2 rounds normally behind where they usually get picked.
Right.
Except for like the top guys, obviously, they fall back into the second round. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I mean, I love where he's going. Again, he's easy to stack, and I mean, yeah, he's just overall great player, and I like him around the other guys that he's going due to the fact of I do think he's going to get probably more red zone targets than the 3 or 4 wide receivers that are going around him.
Yeah. No, I agree with everything you're saying here. I have him like right at where he's going. So he is wide receiver 15 on Underdog. I also have him right at wide receiver 15. So I'm very comfortable taking him where he's going, but I haven't moved him up or lowered him based on his ranking. He's just kind of like even keel for me right there. And I think it's a good situation. He's not someone that's going to demand a high target volume. He's not going to have a lot of catches, but he's a field stretcher and he's going to have those big weeks. Field stretchers have big weeks in the NFL, multi-touchdown type of games, big yardage type of games. He's definitely a great best ball asset for sure. Before we move forward, why don't we pay one quick bill and we'll get into our next ADP hero.
And we are Underdog Fantasy. We are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is a great place to get down on fantasy and player props all year long. Underdog Fantasy has your favorite NBA, NHL, and MLB daily games. Plus, they're already doing best ball drafts for the 2023 NFL season. Head over to underdogfantasy.com and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's underdogfantasy.com, promo code SGPN.
Yeah, if you're drafted now, you're definitely degens like us, fantasy underdog, best ball degens.
And
Yep, it's one for all and all for one, whatever the Three Musketeers
yeah, Three
phrase
Musketeers.
goes. Yeah. Oh yeah, we're all underdogs over here at the network, so we're always getting after it. We'll have a live draft coming up next week. We'll have Pete Overzet on. That's going to be an awesome show.
Oh man,
Live draft.
I am pumped.
Andrew's hero. I had
Yes.
my Michael Florio on. We got Andrew's hero and Pete Overzet. So we'll have a nice live draft next Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss out on that. And of course, you're welcome to draft with us. We're telling you the time, the place. All you need is the app. You can use our promo code, get some extra cash to play with. It's all good stuff. Everybody's winning. All right, let's move on to my first ADP hero. I've got Kirk Cousins, and as a Bears fan, it sounds weird to say he's not, the blemishing logo of consistency. We'll say, right, from a week-to-week standpoint, it's always dangerous. It feels like plugging in Kirk Cousins into your lineup. Maybe it's because he cracks under the pressure, he can't play under the lights. Whatever narrative you have about him, I don't know. It feels like Underdog's diving into that narrative as well. They've got him at QB 13, Andrew, and I just disagree. I have him at QB 8. He's been very consistent, actually, the last few years. If you look on Underdog at their scoring format, he's put up a total, I believe, of about 612 fantasy points across the last 2 seasons. It's about 305, 307. It's very consistent. And a lot of the guys that are going ahead of him, let me pull up my board here really quick because I don't have their exact, total stats. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. They, of course, in the last 3 years have had more yards than Kirk Cousins. Maybe Jalen Hurts not 2 years ago, but definitely this past season. Justin Fields barely finished with more fantasy points than Kirk Cousins. But Joe Burrow after him, same thing. But then Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, even Tua Tagovailoa, Daniel Jones. All these guys had less total yardage, less total fantasy volume, yet they have a higher ADP than Kirk Cousins right now. And I feel like Kirk Cousins, well, I get it, like he's not, the build of consistency. He doesn't just give you that, confidence to start him every week. I feel that you're getting him at a discount right now. I love the passing offense. I love TJ Hawkinson in this group. We've talked about him as a must-own player with Michael Florio a few weeks back now. I feel really good about Cousins this season. Kevin O'Connell's going to want to continue to push the ball down the field. That's been the MO since he's come in this past season. So I'm liking the situation quite a bit this season. Do you have any argument here?
No, not really. I mean, as a man who watched Kirk Cousins a lot in Washington, I always liked Kirk Cousins. He has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. We all know that you like that, little video after he came back and won. So I like Kirk Cousins. Established Run has him listed as QB 13, so that's right on par there. I like Kirk Cousins because again, it's another guy that you can stack decently easy. You can miss out on Justin Jefferson if you're not the
Mhm.
1 or 2, right? So you can miss out on that, but you can easily get Hawkinson. If you target him. KJ Osborne's there. I think that he takes a big step up for them as well, and I've started to looking into running backs a little bit more as well, and I
Mhm.
found that Dalvin Cook actually has not been very good. I think we all think he's good because of the name and because of what he's done. But last year, he ranked well outside the top 24. When it comes to like efficiency, so he's kind of lacking a little bit, and they brought back Alexander Madison on a 2-year deal, so it's not like they brought in somebody else that's going to be lights out for them. So I don't
Mhm.
think they're going to change their mo and run more than they have. So I think that obviously is good for Kirk Cousins. So I have no argument there. I haven't really drafted him a whole lot because I usually miss out
Mhm.
on JJ, and then I start going different directions on that. But I don't really have an argument against Kirk Cousins at QB 13.
No, the value is there, and like I said, I'm taking him at QB8, so I'm moving him up if I can. I'm not saying you want to do that in every situation. Of course, if you have other players drafted, you want to continue to build up your stacks. Even in a super flex format, I have been able to take Justin Jefferson first and follow up in round 2 with Kirk Cousins. I don't know. I mean, I know there are other stacks that can compete with that. If you get a Mahomes and a Kelsey, or maybe an Allen and a Diggs, I get that it can compete, but I felt really good about that on my very first swing on the super flex format. Being just because I didn't feel like anyone was going to let me do it. You shouldn't.
Yep.
Not with the wide receiver 1. And when you're trying to get sneaky and not take a QB in round 1, that can be dangerous in that super flex format.
Yeah, and I do want to say something before we move on. For anybody who's drafting now or even later, when you look at these rankings, when players are going, like let's say, we'll use your Kirk Cousins example, right? You have him as
Mhm.
QB8 and he's listed
Mhm.
as like QB 13, right? That doesn't mean you have to draft him as the 8th quarterback. That's how you have it
No.
ranked. And you don't have to like pick him 2 rounds
Mhm.
ahead because that's where he's, you feel that he should go. You need to understand that these players, just because you have them ranked higher, doesn't mean you need to draft them that high. You can play the board and figure, okay, I have this guy, I want to target this guy, and I know I can probably get him around later. There's no need to take him ahead of time. So just that's a fantasy a tip there for everybody. Make sure you understand rankings versus where they're actually going and how you can play the board.
The star.
Yes.
It's the star button. That's what you need to be looking at. All right. Yeah, we tell you like, hey, this guy, he's a value. You can take him 5 spots earlier. You shouldn't. You should wait. You should get the value. But
Exactly.
if you see everyone racing to that position that you're targeting at value, and you have that name coming up the board pretty quickly, maybe you do need to take him around earlier. Maybe it even has to be round 2. It's not necessarily something you want to force yourself into. But if you like a guy, you don't need to feel like, oh, I have to take him at his ADP. You can move guys up. I've moved Deontay Johnson up to early round 5. That's ridiculous right now because you can get him as close as to round 7. And you know what? Let's just segue right into him because I know he's a name that we've talked about quite a bit. He's a drum we're banging and we're not stopping. I've got him at wide receiver, or I'm sorry, Underdog has him at wide receiver 39. I have him at wide receiver 20. Is that too hasty? Our partner Emerson Beery, he has him at wide receiver 29 for argument's sake. So kind of like a median between me, him, Underdog, etc.
Yeah, no, I think that I'm probably closer to you than consensus on him. Obviously, again, we always talk about this. How many targets he got last year and no touchdowns, right? I don't
Yeah.
think that that's going to happen again. I do think he will get probably similar target share. Maybe a little bit of a decline with George Pickens coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up a little bit. This is his second year now. Like, so I do think they're probably a little closer than we'd like them to be because of how much we like DJ. But where he's going, it's a fantastic value for him. It's easy to stack with Kenny Pickett too, which I believe we're going to talk about Kenny Pickett a little later
Mm-hmm.
here. But
Yep.
it's so easy to stack that. Kenny Pickett's going way late. Deontay Johnson goes, in like the 7th round normally, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
George Pickens is right around that same thing. So really take your pick between the two. I prefer DJ just because of what he's already done. I do think Pickens has a higher upside potentially, not target wise, but what he can do down the field and his catch radius. But yeah, I mean, I have all the love for Deontay Johnson. I really feel like he can have a very good year, and I mean, there's no way he doesn't score a touchdown again. I mean, that's so fluky, right? Touchdowns are so fluky that people
Yeah.
need to understand that. And yeah, so I'm right there with you. I think that he's an extreme fantasy hero at his current ADP.
No, this guy is going to bring home the profit on Underdog. You need to get him in like your key lineups. Like, like if you're only doing one, you got to draft DJ or Deontay Johnson. I keep calling him DJ on all my notes, but you have to get him if you're doing a one and done for sure. Like I've done also some robust RB approaches where he has been my wide receiver one. Haven't done them in a while because when I'm looking at my teams at the end of the day, I really like my zero RB teams more personally, but he is someone that I have done that with where I've taken my first wide receiver in round 6. And that was one where I had to kind of pull him up a little bit because the other names going around him, they just don't excite me as much. Deontay Johnson just 2 years ago was second in the NFL in total targets with 169. This past season, he had 143, and he's had 140 plus in 3 straight seasons. Mind you, 2 of those seasons were with the late, great Ben Roethlisberger, right? So that was a different type of quarterback. He was pushing the ball all the time. That was his last year when he had 169 targets. But 169 just to 143 from Ben Roethlisberger, the gunslinger, the Pittsburgh Sheriff, down to Kenny Pickett, Pittsburgh deputy. You know what I mean? Like, it's really not that big a difference of the total offensive share that he had from 2 years ago to just last year. And you and I have discussed it before. We're both expecting progressions from Pickett. I'm expecting the offensive line to take another step forward. That's kind of been a few year project. Even when Ben Roethlisberger was there 2 seasons ago, they were completely, redesigning the offensive line. Right. So that's another, year into the project making. I feel like they're going to lean on the run a lot. And I think Pickett just overall gets better. I think it's going to be a great situation. You had mentioned Pickens, wide receiver 36. I like him. I do, but I cannot pay that price for him. I can't do it. Not when I'm looking at a guy who's going to be playing on the same team with him that could have 50 plus more targets on the year. It's very difficult for me to draft Pickens. I have a very low share of him right now because every time I see DJ, I just grab him. Give me. Unless I'm drafting with Gindy. Gindy, if you're watching this, my God, man. 2 times. The last 2 drafts, he's stealing DJ from me. Killing me. And he took DJ Moore, too, in the last one. 2 DJs.
Gindy's a content guy, man. He likes to take stuff from you for the content, just so you get a little, a little upset. He
I
likes
was not
that.
happy.
He's that kind of guy. Yeah. So I mean, DJ for the win.
Wheels up. All right. Who's your next hero?
So let's pivot over to a team that didn't really throw the ball a ton, but I do expect them to have a little bit of an uptick this year, and that's the Atlanta Falcons. It's Drake London. If first off, let's just start by looking at their current depth chart. So they got Drake London, and then they have Matt Collins, which let's give Matt Collins some due. He did well in Las Vegas. Okay. But then Scotty Miller, he's okay. Frank Darby. And then we won't even get into the rest of these guys, right? Like that.
I'm surprised you went as far as Frank Darby, to be honest. Like, he ain't Braxton Berrios, buddy. Berrios ain't walking through that door.
Yeah, so that's number one for me. And why I really like him is he's clearly the best guy. Now, I didn't get into the tight end. There is Kyle Pitts. I know we like Kyle Pitts, but I think that both of them can do well in this offense. Drake London showed last year that he was very good with the small sample size. I think he was like 860 yards or something like that, on the year. And this was a team that liked to run the ball a ton. So, I mean, if that's the case, if they even have an uptick a little bit in their passing game, I mean, the sky's the limits for this guy. I mean, he's going to clearly be the number one wide receiver target. I don't want to say he's the number one target because they might really try to work in Pitts a little more after the disaster of a season he had last year. So I don't want to say that, but I mean, even if he is the second in targets on the team, I still think he can produce very well. He's currently going wide receiver 29 on Fantasy Pros, 24 on Underdog. I like him a lot. I liked him coming in as a draft prospect. I still like him. I do think Desmond Ridder is a little underrated, actually. I mean, he at the end of the last year, he was performing decently well, and I think that he can take a step forward as well. And if he does, again, that's going to really help Drake London. So Drake London, fantasy hero for me, good value. I like where he's going. Again, easy to stack if you do want to take the in best ball anyway. I doubt Desmond Ridder is going to be drafted in a lot of redraft leagues, but for best ball, very, very easy to stack him with the rest of the team. And honestly, you don't have to worry about too many people stealing targets from him outside of Pitts. I mean, that's kind of like one of the best things I like about him.
Are you worried they might draft a receiver at pick 8?
I do. Obviously,
Mhm.
we're doing the show now, which is why he's on here.
Right.
This is everything we talk about. Everyone needs to know that this is
Mhm.
subject to change, right? If they draft somebody, and especially one of these good wide receivers, then I'm probably gonna pull the reins back a little bit on Drake London. But if that doesn't happen, man, he has so much upside, and he has the playmaking ability as well is so
Mhm.
good for him. He's a very good route runner. So I do feel that if they do again, if they draft somebody, then it's going to be a little different. But if not, man, sky's the limit.
Yeah. I don't know if it's likely that Quentin Johnston would go that high at number 8, but him with Pitts and Drake London, that sounds like a mess. That sounds like a problem for people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Jackson Smith and Jigba would fit well with Drake London. I feel like they do a lot of similar things.
Yeah, and again, I don't think he's
I
going
mean,
to
they're
go that high.
good. It's always good to have good receivers, right? But
Mm-hmm.
when they both can do the same things or both have similar competencies, it feels kind of tough. And I feel like that would be a big upgrade from not a big upgrade from Calvin Ridley, but a big size upgrade. Like when
Yeah.
again we were talking about big targets in the red zone, DK Metcalf. If you got a guy like Johnson and Kyle Pitts down there, that's going to be a tough situation to deal with.
Yep.
Plus, maybe a power runner in Tyler Algier. They could really turn things around. I'd like to see it.
Mm-hmm.
We got Ben Haskell back in the chat. Says he's coming in to hang out a little bit. He's looking for the live draft. That's next week.
Yep. Next Thursday, be here.
Yeah, we're gonna have Pete Overzet on. If you have a best ball pulse, you should know who that is. So
Yes.
it'll
If
be
you
a lot
don't know
of
who
fun.
Pete Overzet is, just go on the YouTubes here and type in Pete Overzet and just enjoy.
The YouTubes.
Very very comical guy and love his best ball drafts.
Where was it, Jesse? On the YouTubes? Was it a DVD, a VHS? What was it, Jesse? Gemstones. Get to it, guys.
Yeah.
HBO.
Great show.
It's not TV. It's HBO. All right, back into the conversation here. Actually, before we do, let's hit a quick word from one of our sponsors. We are brought to you by the Golf Gambling Podcast and their tailor-made driver contest. The contest is completely free to enter, and you have a chance to win an awesome tailor-made driver. The drawing will take place on Sunday, April 8th, so make sure to get in by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/driver. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/driver. All right, and we're back in it here. I'm going to bring up my next ADP hero. I've got Samaje P. Ryan.
I also have him written down here, so I'm so glad that we're about to talk about him.
Smash P. Ryan. So he's coming off the board as RB38. I have him at RB31. Not a big, difference there, but that's a good chunk of running backs that I am going to take behind Samaje P. Ryan. I mean, the sentiment that I'm getting right now is that he could legitimately lead in carries and touches from the running back position with the Denver Broncos this year. Now, obviously, you need some dominoes to fall, and one of those might be an injury or re-injury to Javonte Williams. Don't want that to happen. I'm knocking on wood right now just for that. I don't want to see injuries happen. However, even if Williams comes back in an appropriate timeline, he gets there early, week 1, early weeks of the season, whatever it is, it doesn't feel like he's going to be a bell cow back. It doesn't feel like he's going to be taking the majority of the touches. It feels like at best, he's probably 60-40, but realistically, it feels like it's going to be a 50-50 type of scenario here as far as the split. Mind you, again, we're talking early April here. They could draft another running back, but I just feel like in Sean Payton's offense, this is a guy that loves to run the ball. The last 5 seasons with the Saints, he had 3 seasons in top 5 rushing attempts, right, in the league. So he likes to run the ball. It's definitely a part of his package. And I feel like the acquisition of Samaje P. Ryan just only indicates that he is going to get that usage. They're not bringing him in to just play second fiddle to Javonte Williams and a rookie. He's going to come in and he's going to have a role. And he feels like an every down type of back. I mean, when he was given the opportunity 2 out of the 3 weeks that he was a feature starter for the Bengals, he was a top 5 running back. And the other week, he was top 10. He was number 10. So just barely made it. But still, he's a guy that feels like he can play on every down. He can pass block. He can catch. He's got a lot in his tool chest here. And again, the value is just super, super good this late in the draft. What are your thoughts? Well, you already told me you love him, so.
I do. Yeah, I like P. Ryan a lot here. So Established Run has him listed as RB38. That's where he's currently ranked for them. I saw here, and I just pulled it up, so I didn't want to misquote anything, but this was last month. Although Broncos GM George Patton said that third-year running back is on track to be ready for the regular season, Matthew Berry heard the opposite at the NFL scouting combine, and this is what he said. So Matthew Berry said, "I was told he is currently a lot more hurt than the team is letting on publicly, and someone had said that there is potential that he could actually miss a great portion or all of next season." Now, do I fully believe that he's going to miss all of next season? Not really. His injury was definitely really bad. It was he tore multiple things. Like it was not good. So I don't think he's going to start the year, but I don't think he's going to miss all of it. But could I see him missing at least half of it? Yeah, that's a possibility. I mean, this is a guy that they drafted and they really liked. There's really not a huge reason for them to make him get back on the field before he's ready. I mean, look what happened with J.K. Dobbins last year, right? He got back on the field, just didn't look right, right?
And people were banging that drum for him. Oh, he's going to be ready. Week 1, no problem. He's going to be ready. Like, nope.
I'm getting that.
You know who was right on that? Our boy Sebastian Fearon, our injury doc. He was like, "No, sir. Right. No, sir. Don't test fate. It's going to happen."
We should have him on a show here to talk about some of these injuries, including Javonte Williams, right? But anyway, so I just Piron's a guy that could start the year. I mean, he's going well outside the top 24, as we mentioned, right? So he's a guy who could start the year for you. He's a guy that could potentially play at least half the year as a starting running back, if not more. I mean, at that value, I mean, he's a smash for me at this value right here. It's just, it makes no sense to me why he's still this far down. And maybe just the ADP hasn't caught up yet, and we'll just see it rise and rise and rise, which I clearly think we will as we get more news on the Javonte Williams injury. But I think that it's a good system for him too. You know, you already hit on that with Sean Payton and what he's done with his running backs over the years. So I think it's a good system. And just honestly, I mean, it's all about the value here for him. You know, that's what truly makes him a fantasy hero is his ADP and what he could potentially do in this offense.
No, I'm very excited about him. And then you just look at the rest of the offense. We didn't even touch on Russell Wilson. Like, this is an offense that needs to get the ball moving in a positive way. That's going to be on the ground. They couldn't move the ball at all last year on the ground. Russell Wilson couldn't pass, setting up the run game. And if Samaje Perine or Javonte Williams is there, they're going to use that run game to protect Russell Wilson, hopefully from either, throwing turnovers or, whatever, just not being bad. I mean, we all expect them to take a step forward this year. So hopefully P. Ryan's a big part of that. Who is your next guy up?
So next guy up here, let's switch back to wide receiver real quick. Isaiah Hodgins. I know I talked about him on our show with Michael Florio, but man, he's going so late. He's currently ranked as wide receiver 80 on Fantasy Pros and 74 on Underdog. You're telling me that this guy who came on hot at the end of last year got a end of year rapport with Dan Jones, who's now in the second year of a Brian Daboll offense that produces. You're telling me that we think that he ain't gonna be better than wide receiver 74 on Underdog? I mean, get that out of my face. There ain't no way this dude goes as wide receiver 74 at the end of the year. I expect him to be a wide receiver 3, probably mid wide receiver 3. Is it potential that he can get to 2? I think that's a little rich. But I do think that he could definitely be, somewhere in the 25 to 36 range at the end of the season. I think we'll have a couple of boom weeks for us as well, because again, the Giants don't have a ton of capital to be able to go out and get anybody, and they clearly didn't. So what they can do is potentially draft somebody that could hurt them a little bit. But I mean, there's nobody else on this team outside of Darren Waller now that I really think could take a lot of targets away from a guy that seems sure-handed and has a good rapport with Dan Jones. I mean, they have some good guys. Darius Slayton's there, and they have a couple of good wide receivers. But Isaiah Hodgins, man, just watching him at the end of the season, it really seemed like it was a guy that Dan Jones could rely on, and he had sure hands. I mean, he caught like 76 or 78% of the balls thrown his way. That's pretty good. I mean, I'll take that all day at the end of drafts. I mean, good Lord. So there's multiple reasons why I like him, but again, it's the fantasy ADP right now is so in his favor. I mean, there ain't no way. I'll take anybody's money if they want to bet me that he finishes 70 or later. I'll take that all day. It's just not going to happen. So I've been grabbing him a lot. He's one of my most exposed players on Underdog right now. And again, fantasy hero because of the ADP, man. It's amazing.
No, I absolutely love the value. If you had to guess what my ranking of him is, what do you think it is? Really quick though, what was the ranking on Underdog or Establish the Run?
So let's see. So Underdog. Oh yeah, hold on. Let me check ETR here. Underdog. He is currently going at 74. Fantasy Pros has him at 80. Let me find him real quick.
Okay, so really quick. Emerson has him at 79. So we got to beat up Emerson.
Okay.
That's a problem, Emerson.
Establish a Run has them at wide receiver 75. So they have them pretty low too, which concerns me a little bit because they're pretty good with their rankings. So that does concern me a little bit. But
I have. Oh, no, I'm not going to
oh
tell you.
yeah,
I'm going to make you guess.
yeah. Say, let me guess here. You have them at 52.
Lower. I mean higher.
45.
Getting warmer.
40.
41.
41. Okay.
Wide receiver 41.
I like it.
Butt ended by Jalen Hyatt and Hunter Renfrow. Let's ride. Well,
Yeah,
actually, that's not true. That's the consensus. He is technically the SGPN consensus wide receiver 59, and is butt ended by Renfrow and Hyatt. I don't have those guys butt ending him. That's the consensus butt ending.
Yeah,
But,
I mean, I still like it. I mean, again, that's well better than any of these other websites have them listed at, and I think that's acceptable. You know, somewhere in the 40s or 50s for him is acceptable, but I do think he creeps into wide receiver 3 territory by by actual redraft time, because again, unless they add somebody, I'm not really sure who else besides Darren Waller is probably going to beat him out for targets. I mean, again, he seems so sure-handed, and I think he's going to do good for himself in preseason and really establish himself as their potential wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much competition for touches because I feel like all the competition is pretty just adequate. They're all very similar, like you had mentioned. So Darius Slayton doesn't feel like a threat for touches, right? Richie James didn't even bring him back. Paris Campbell doesn't feel like a threat for touches. Sterling Shepard, I don't know how they got him back in, if he had to walk or crawl back into the building, but they're bringing him back too. Doesn't feel like a threat for competition. Darren Waller and Saquon, obviously, of course they do, and they're not a downfield passing team, right? So I think those are the built-in concerns with Isaiah Hodgins. I just don't feel, I'm in the same boat with you, that he is going to finish the year that late in the rankings. And whether it's injuries, whether it's just, surprise, play from other players or something like that, I'm not sure what would send him that far down the rankings. Our boss, Ryan Kramer, he's not in on him. He says it's a Darius Slayton type of receiving room, but I don't know. I like Isaiah Hodgins at value. So I'm all over that. He's definitely one of my higher exposed receivers, and it's just based off of the finish of last year. And we saw Richie James playing well in this offense. He's going to have vacated targets. I'm trying to think of anyone else that who else left? No one else left.
There's Wan'Dale Robinson there, and that was the rookie they had.
Wan'Dale.
He started off very well and then got hurt, so I'm still unsure.
Very low ADOT though.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I would prefer to have Slayton or Hodgins. He was catching like everything on the goal line. In Dynasty, of course, you're going to want Wan'Dale Robinson out of this mix. But in best ball, I want the field breakers. I want the guys that are going to be targeted downfield and have more touchdown upside. Wan'Dale could be used in like a gadgetry type of role, maybe take on some end around reverses, some carries, some creative usage. But that's not going to be enough for me. I mean, I think his ADOT was like 4 to 6. It was something incredibly low.
Yeah.
Obviously, small sample size, but regardless, he doesn't feel like that field stretcher for me. And in best ball, I wanted, like I said, get those guys, those big gainers. Barkley and Waller would definitely be the top targets there. But I'm actually targeting this next guy ahead of Darren Waller, and that's Dalton Schultz. I won't hit on him for too long because we talked about him about a week or so ago. Just really love the opportunity down in Houston. We're all expecting them to load up on a rookie QB. They have literally no weapons at receiver. I like Nico Collins, but again, not a target hog, not a monster dominating the ball, dominating touches. Noah Brown, fun story last year with Dak Prescott. It's over. That you're on the wrong side of Texas now, pal. Okay. John Mechie, love the story, but we don't have enough to go off of. We don't have enough confidence to say like, oh yeah, he's going to be the guy. He's going to lead the team in targets, yards, catches, etc. Right? Dalton Schultz feels like he can still be that guy, even if they bring in a skilled position player at receiver. Like even if they draft like a Jackson Smith or Quentin Johnson, it still feels like with a rookie QB, he's going to be more lenient and dependent on that safety valve of a hybrid, tight end slot receiver, essentially, Dalton Schultz, right? Not a big guy, not going to bully anyone on the opposing defensive line, not really set up for for blocking. They're going to want to run a lot, so he's going to have those duties. But I imagine if they still have a guy like Brevin Jordan, he's going to be out. He's going to be on the field for pass blocking duties and things like that. And you'll probably see Dalton Schultz used at some points as just a legit receiver. You may see him line up outside. You may just see him straight up in the slot. So I feel like he's going to be in a good situation. Could easily clear 120 plus targets. I have him as my tight end. Was it 8? He's going off the board at tight end 11. I don't think that's crazy. I think that's pretty similar still.
Yeah, I'm not a So I like Dalton Schultz, right? I just not huge on him. ETR does him again. They have him ranked at tight end 11 as well, so they obviously think he can finish as a tight end 1. I think it's in the realm of possibility. What I do like for him is the scheme. Coming over from Kyle Shanahan tree here, right? The D'Amico Ryans and.
Right.
Obviously they use the tight end over there pretty well. Now it's a little different. George Kittle is a different animal than Dalton Schultz is, so take that with a grain of salt. But I also like that, you mentioned that we believe that they're going to load up on a rookie QB, and rookie QBs tend to lean on the tight end. So there's things to like about him. I am worried that they are going to run the ball more than they did last year with Lovie Smith. So not saying that takes away from him, but I do worry about how many pass attempts this team's actually going to have. Now, the other side of that is they're probably still going to not win a whole lot of games. They're probably going to be behind in a majority of their games, and that usually leans on passing the ball. So I do think it sets it up for him. I'm not a huge Dalton Schultz guy. It's not somebody I'm going to shy away from. It's not somebody I'm targeting. If he's there and I need a tight end and I think it's an appropriate time for him, that's completely fine, right? He's going at about 117th overall, and I think that's fine. It's not a guy that's going to kill you. And we obviously know, the saying is great or late with tight ends. Either draft one of the great guys or just wait, right? I think that he probably starts that tier of, okay, I've waited long enough. I can grab one of these guys now. So I think it's completely fine. He's not going to be somebody I have a huge exposure on. But again, like if I feel like I can, and again, he's easy to stack. I mean, once we figure out who the quarterback actually is, it's going to be easy to stack the Texans team. I mean, they're not going very, highly ranked. So
not going anywhere. Yeah, you get Damian Pierce in like round 7.
Yeah, I mean, and Nico Collins, John Mechie, and all those guys, they're going way late too. So it's easy to stack the team. But yeah, I think Dalton Schultz, it's an appropriate spot for him. He's just not somebody I super overly love.
No, I get that. I mean, he's not in a flashy situation. He doesn't have a great QB. We don't even know who the quarterback's going to be yet. But all of the targets around him in that offense, he feels like he's going to be a star. Like, well, maybe I shouldn't use that term so loosely, but I feel like he's going to be a big priority in the offense. And I didn't even mention the game flow type of aspect. You brought up a great point there. Like him playing from behind on this team, how can he not just walk into 7 to 8 targets a game?
Yeah, especially if they don't add anybody. If they don't add anybody to this core, yeah, I think that's definitely in his possibilities. He could definitely have 100 targets throughout the year. That's in his wheelhouse if they don't add anybody. Let's play a quick game since this is the first guy we actually kind of, I don't want to say disagreed on. I'm just not overly in love with him. Let's play a game.
Feelings.
I'm going to give you the 4 guys going around him. So the 2 guys being drafted in front of him and the 2 guys behind him. You let me know if there's anybody that you like a lot more than him, a little bit more, or not at all.
Okay,
So again, he's going as tight end 11. So we're going to start at tight end 9, who is currently Evan Ingram. Do you like him more than Evan Ingram, the same, or less?
I believe I have Evan Ingram higher. Evan Ingram is at tight end 6, so more, because I love that passing offense. There's a priority to move the ball downfield in that offense.
Yep, gotcha. Okay, good. So David Njoku is the next guy. That's 1 in front of him.
I believe I have him behind. So I have David Njoku 2 behind, and that's just because I want to get more info on the Cleveland offense. I do think that they're going to add another playmaker at receiver or potentially even running back, and it may come closer to week 1, may feel a little bit more overcrowded. From an athleticism standpoint, Njoku's got this down, like hands down. I just feel Dalton Schultz's role may be more heightened and more of a priority than Njoku's will in his offense.
Yep, no, I respect that. So 1 behind him, Dawson Knox.
Yeah, I know I have Knox behind him. How far though? Where's Knox? I think I've Knox down a bit. Where is he? I have him at 17. Emerson has him at 15. So we're both low on Dawson Knox.
Okay. And the last one here is Chig Okonkwo.
Did I have him at 14? So a little bit later. Where you at, Chig? I think I have him at 14, so also behind.
Okay. Yeah, so those are some of the guys, when I look at some of these guys, I'm like unsure of. I'll do this little exercise, right? I'll go around and be like, do I like him more than these guys and this guy and this guy? And kind of that helps me to figure out, because a lot of these guys go in the realm that he's going to go within, a round or 2. So I always like to do that. So I was just curious. But it's funny, Chig Okonkwo, that's another guy that kind of reminds me of Dalton Schultz for the scenario anyway of not a ton of talent on the team, can potentially get a decent workload and is on a team that's probably going to be behind in a decent amount of games. So, and they both have good running backs. So it's just, that's a guy that reminds me a lot of Dalton Schultz.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like Treylon Burks, the idea of him, but I'm not at his ADP. He's going like way too high. All right, we have time for one more. You want to dive into your last pick?
Sure. What do you want to talk about? A quarterback or a tight end? I got one each.
Ooh, what quarterback you got? Let's go with QB.
Quarterback is Kenny Pickett.
Kenny
Pickett currently going. Yeah, Kenny. He's currently going quarterback 22 on Fantasy Pros and 26 on Underdog. This is a guy that I just am getting a ton of in Underdog right now. And that's just because, we love Deontay Johnson, right? I've had a lot of Deontay Johnson. It's easy to stack Pickens with him. It's easy to stack Pickens with almost the entire team if you really want to. I think Pickens, I don't say he got a bad rap last year, but he didn't, let's be honest, he didn't perform great, right? He didn't use his legs as much as I would like him to. And, he didn't score a lot of touchdowns, didn't have a ton of yards.
He looked timid. I mean, he looked timid. He didn't look confident. Yeah.
Yep. I think Tomlinson also saw that, right? And they're going to work on that this year. I think that they're going to allow the playbook to be opened up a little bit more for him. This is his year 2 in the NFL. A lot of times quarterbacks tend to do, take a little bit of a step forward. And again, for me, the reason he's a hero is it's all about the ADP for me, right? The ADP is so friendly right now. You can get him way late in drafts. He's a guy that is on a team that, depending on what happens with Lamar Jackson here, they could potentially bid for the division, right? They could win this division, and
this team's never out. I mean, did they finish last year 9-8?
Yeah, I think yes. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I think they did.
I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah, because we were all banking on Tomlin having a losing season or less than 500 and turn it out a winning season.
So, there's a couple things that could break right for him. And if that happens, I think that he could creep himself into top 15. If that's the case, I mean, he's going 9 spots later than that, or 11 spots later than that right now at the position. And I think it's just a very good value. Now, do I think he's going to stay here all offseason? I don't. I do think he's going to jump a couple of these guys in front of him. But again, I mean, the upside's there with 2 very good wide receivers. Pat Freiermuth, shout out Penn State, good tight end. Najee Harris had a little bit of a kind of medium year last year. I do think he
great finish to the year. Great finish to the year. He did not start the year very well. Once the Jaylen Warren talk started up, he was like, "Nah, fam, no, sit down, boy. This is my job." That's what I felt like. Everyone and their mother was like, Jaylen Warren. I'm like, man, I'm trading a first-round pick for next year for Najee Harris. Give me that. What's up?
Yeah. I mean, so, again, back to Pickett. Just overall, the scenario is good for him. The ADP is great. You can stack him very easy, and he's a good QB2 in redrafts. That's where I think he fits in very well. He's a good QB2, and I just, again, the upside for him at the ADP is very favorable.
Yeah, and that ADP, like Andrew said, opens up so many opportunities for stacking, and that's what you need to do with this Steelers team if you're going to be taking multiple of them, right? Like if you take Pickens and Deontay, there is no question. There's no question to take Kenny Pickett at the back end of your draft because he won't cost you anything, and you're only exposing yourself to more consistency in scoring with that approach. And same thing, again, like if you draft multiple of those Steelers, Kenny Pickett should be on your to-do list, whether he's your second QB, whether he's your third. I didn't say 4. That's not what I said. That's not what I said. But if you're getting him at that value, he's going to bring home something positive for you because, again, it's just going to be a late round pick. Like that late round pick could be a guy that doesn't even play at all. You're drafting, I'm drafting Deuce Vaughn in the last round. There's a reality he doesn't touch the ball this year or only plays special teams, right? I'm excited about it. I love the idea. I love the reality that could be, but we have to wait for what can be. So,
yes. All
right. Anything else to share before we head out for the evening?
No, man. I mean, shit, I could sit here and talk to you about this all day. I love comparing the ADPs and finding the values, man. That's how you win your leagues and your best ball leagues is find the values that can really hit for you late. That's going to help you tremendously.
Yeah, I got OG up in the chat, dropping the TITTH. What up, John Reed, OG Goonie? John, we had Michael Florio on the show last week. If you didn't catch that, John and I were in the same chat where we would hang out with Florio and the gang all day at FNTSY. So he is an OG my boy John Reed. I love it. I
Nice.
love it. Go check out that episode, man. It's a lot of fun. All right, yeah, I'm ready to head out. Always a good time talking ball with you, of course. We'll be back next week to do the same thing. We do it every week. That's why we're here. That's what we do. Next week we'll be talking villains. We're talking about our do not draft list, guys that we are not drafting at their ADP or whatsoever on Underdog Best Ball. If you haven't been on Underdog, be sure to go over there. You can use promo code SGPN. You'll get 100% deposit match up to $100. It's all good stuff.
Do you want to let anybody know about something that might be dropping that you recently wrote?
Oh yeah, tomorrow I'm dropping an article discussing these players that we discussed this evening, plus a few more that we didn't have time to get to. So you'll see some surprises in there. And I guess we should probably pop in the answer to the question: who was your first receiver that you brought up?
My first receiver was DK Metcalf.
DK Metcalf. That's the answer, folks, to the D-Gen question of the show.
Boom.
If
Get
you're on
your D-Gen
Spotify,
points.
Exactly. Get that free merch. Go into the Q&A section. You pull up the episode on Spotify. It's right there. That will be the question. What was the first receiver Andrew discussed? The answer is DK Metcalf. You pop that answer in there, and you're earning points. You're collecting opportunities to win free stuff from us, which is always a good thing. If you haven't checked out the merch store, by the way, absolutely buzzing right now.
Oh, here we go.
We've got Dynasty 101
the Sunday
shirts.
edition shirts here. Sports Gambling Podcast, and then obviously I like to Commander. So at the bottom they have your slogan: "Take command, baby."
You know, if you don't have much Commanders merch yet,
yeah, I clearly don't
a way to get a good start. I also grabbed the book bag, man. The book bag's looking fire.
Book bag's sweet. Yeah,
dude, you got
mini
it.
Helmet.
You got the book bag. I didn't get a mini helmet. I got I think I got a hoodie and book bag.
Obviously, you have your corporate shirt on.
Let's ride. It's a golf shirt, technically. I believe. Technically, I believe I supported the golf network or the fantasy golf or whatever.
The Golf Gambling Podcast.
Whatever they do, gamble.
Shout out to them, by the way. I listened to a lot of Master Stuffs this week, so if anybody's into golf, check them out. Steve Shermer and Boston Capper. They're hilarious together, and two, great information. Just they made me some money today. I'm very happy with them. So shout out to the Golf Gambling Podcast.
Love it. We're all about making money and picking winners, fantasy gambling alike. All right, we're gonna head out of here. Everybody, be sure to take care, be well, be good. But if you can't be good at it. We'll see you.